The house wasn't supposed to be haunted until the screams started. At first it was just whispers in the walls, voices calling names that didn't exist. Then the shadows began to move, without anyone inside them. Windows shattered on their own. Doors slammed so hard the walls shook. And in the dead of night, the family realized something was watching them from inside the house itself, and it wasn't going anywhere. In the late 1970s, Smurl family moved into a large, old house on Elm Street in Pennsylvania. At first, it seemed perfect, spacious rooms, a big backyard. But almost immediately, strange things began to happen. Within a week, Janet Smurl, the mother, began hearing noises, footsteps in the attic, creaks in empty rooms, soft whispers calling out names she didn't recognize. The family thought it was just the old house settling, but it was something far worse. At night, the temperature in the house would drop suddenly. Freezing cold air passing through rooms with no windows open. Shadows appeared where no one was standing. Sometimes the children woke to see figures at the foot of their beds, vanishing when anyone turned on the lights. Objects moved on their own. Doors slammed violently. Heavy furniture shifted inexplicably. The family felt invisible hands brushing against their skin. Even the family dog refused to enter certain rooms, growling at walls. Desperate, the Smurls called friends, priests, and paranormal investigators. They reported increasingly aggressive activity, whispers turning into screaming, doors being thrown open, and chilling presences felt throughout the house. Everyone in the family began suffering from nightmares and anxiety. They felt constantly watched. Lights flickered, and strange symbols appeared on walls. Every attempt to ignore it failed. The entities seemed to feed on fear. After months of torment, the Smurls could no longer live in the house. They moved out, but even years later, neighbors reported strange noises and shadows inside the empty building. Locals say the house itself seems alive, and it remembers the family who once lived there. Even after they moved out, the nightmares didn't stop. Janet would wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, hearing the faint scratching of nails on walls, or what sounded like someone walking slowly across the floor above her head. At first, she tried to convince herself it was just memories haunting her mind. But then things began happening outside the house too. Neighbors reported doors that slammed violently with no wind, lights that flickered on and off, and shadows glimpsed moving behind curtained windows. One man swore he saw a dark figure standing in the yard, watching silently for hours. People who walked past the house after sunset described a feeling of being followed, as if unseen eyes were tracking their every step. Some nights, the family's old belongings that were left behind would inexplicably appear outside, as if thrown by invisible hands. A small rocking chair would move on its own. A family photo would be found face down in the yard. Even the local priests who had come to bless the house reported feeling a cold, oppressive presence that made their skin crawl. What terrified them the most was that it seemed intelligent. The entity wasn't random. It seemed to understand the family, to anticipate their movements. Doors would slam just as someone tried to leave a room. Whispers would respond to questions no one had asked aloud. And sometimes, late at night, a low growl or a hiss would come from the walls themselves, as though the house itself was alive and hungry. Over time, investigators documented more and more disturbing phenomena. Instruments would detect sudden drops in temperature, objects would move without explanation, and recordings of the house captured faint voices that seemed to speak in a language nobody recognized. The longer anyone stayed inside, the heavier their sense of dread became, pressing on them like a physical weight. The family eventually settled far away, but the memories followed them. Each time they tried to talk about it, their voices would tremble. They could still feel the weight of unseen eyes, still hear faint whispers in the wind, and still see shadows moving just beyond their vision. Friends and relatives who visited them reported strange cold spots, sudden feelings of panic, and even seeing fleeting figures out of the corner of their eye. Locals still warn that the house on Elm Street is not empty. Strange sounds and flickering lights continue to this day. Some say if you listen closely at night, you can hear whispers calling names. Names that have no one to belong to. Voices that remind you that some places are not meant to be lived in, and that some entities never forget.